EFS 20. Did we finish the book? No, we didn't finish the book. We're close though. It'll be one more episode and we'll get it done. We're enjoying the process, and look, punching on for 3 hours to finish it. We check out when we check out. When the flow stops, the flow stops. And I think you guys have been enjoying it from what I've seen on the downloads, and thank you very, very much for that. I don't have too much more this week. Look, we're going to stick with Detoxify. I love it. Right? I don't know why every time I like Detoxify. That's about it. Remember, on Patreon, unlocking the code. You want to swing a few bucks our way, that'd be awesome. Facebook, Instagram, unlocking the code. Give us a like, give us a follow. You know the review stuff. As I say, I do it, and I try and do it for every podcast that I listen to, because I know how much it helps the algorithm. So if you give us a hand with that, that'd be awesome. Episode 200 coming up. I think we're just going to let it pass by with not too much pomp and ceremony. I think actually the last EFS will be episode 200. That's it, guys. Look after yourselves. Be kind, be cool, stay disciplined, hold the line, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.
There's a poison in the structure. People suffer, people suffocate. We're suffocated daily, making our own bubble. Subtle is the cuddle of the snake that squeezes. Hate to see this matrix seizes. Maybe we just need to pull the plug. Drain the system, poison out our body. You've been probably overdosing most of your life and never noticed. Overloaded, rub the cups and come and toast. And no one's open, no emotion, nothing goes in this dimension here. We work all day and it's always a thinking crystal clear. Everything we do revolves around the dollar count. It's all around us, all the ground. We're falling down. It knocks you out, get off the couch. It's all think out the top of flame will cost you cancer, jobs and houses all around. Got your spouses, got your house, you call the council, got no answers. Evolving out in small amounts. It's all we have, it's all planned out for our defeat. Water down the modern man and bottle up. So we have no intuition of a vision that it's all corrupt. I know we made our vision get boggy, always been forgotten. We're sick of our thoughts and living in boxes. Now let's go find all of those outreaches forgotten. The beaches to walk on, the treetops to waterfalls, pieces of part of us. Go find out what's been making you take, but didn't face it with criticism. Awaken your inner visions. Slow life down, you better leave your belongings. You'll start receiving your callings and be unleashing from bondages. Bringing it out and draining it out. Every day is about a way to get out. Find a solution, life illusion. Portrayed every day in our face. We do what they say, they use us away. Pollution can take, inducing our brains. We choose to escape, to do what they make. You wear it on your face. I can see the burden on your shoulders heavy. And it's getting unrelenting. You're frowning from how hard the world strains you. When stress is depresses too fast. It's just a system that's a hope that puts you in scenarios you never chose. It's not your fault that every known element in your life is in control. Everything but not your soul. So this can be some therapy, some psychedelic clarity. Don't fight between polarities. Go where it will not go. Slide between the barricades. It's nice to be aware of things. It's kinda like some kerosene, lighten up the world. It's a poisonous system. You didn't invent this prison, so who'd you be when it's all out? Everything you think needs to go now. Defeat the people that hold down you from beating you. Blow out your brain cloud. Become new and escape now. Take Route 86, escape now. Gotta lay down everything you learned, everything you know, everything they ever told you. Drain the poison from your soul. Bringing it out, draining it out. Every day's about a way to get out. Our minds are polluted. Find a solution, life illusion. Portrayed every day in our face. We do what they say. The uses away. Pollution can take. Inducing our brains. We choose to escape. Do what they make. Do what they make. People beyond. People beyond. Waking up to the people we need to be. 2004. Beat by Cumulus.
Well, it's a shocking eruption of great electrical energy. I feel connected to all living things, to flowers, to some special spirit, and even to some great unseen living force.
Happy
Blast
New
off.
Blast off. Yeah, fair enough. Happy
Yep.
New Go on, mate. We're back.
Good, mate. It's good to be back for 23. Positive
23.
vibes.
Positive vibes, mate.
Positive vibes for 23, mate. Moving forward.
Yes, moving forward. That is a very good. I reckon that's true, man. I think 23.
It's a moving year.
It's a moving year.
There's,
we're gonna
sense a lot of chaos currently, and movement is possible during chaos.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah,
slip through unseen.
Absolutely.
Some might say, old boy.
Well, mate, we're continuing with the book. However, I did want to look, bow down to Marty Garza, and look, the Serpent Bros do a good job.
Yeah.
And Soraya as well, from Where Did the Road Go?
Yeah, it's a good sode. Really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, speaking about the UFO phenomenon, the UAP phenomenon,
Yep.
right? And I think it was an interesting perspective because we're so deep on that, me and you. We're so deep in that hole, right? We've listened to all those UFO episodes. We've listened to every Joe, you know what I mean? Like whatever's out there.
Yeah.
We've heard every perspective.
That's right.
Right. And they were sort of talking about something, what do you say, ephemeral almost, right?
Yep.
That the paranormal, it's all the same.
It's all
the same. Yep. Just varying abilities, right? So I suppose my question after listening to that episode is where are you at with it now? Because obviously on the other side of it, you have got the what are they calling it?
Nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts UFO stuff that's coming out with Corbell and all that sort of stuff, right? So where do you sit? Where do you sit after?
Well, I've been wondering for a while actually. Who is part of the psyop of the new release of the new disclosure?
Yes, the new disclosure.
Because any good thing gets hijacked. They always do. So
well, as they said on that episode, the government's infiltrated all the UFO groups since the 50s, right?
Exactly.
It's not exactly.
Right. So yeah, as far as anyway. So I've always thought, I don't know, Corbell's always given me a bit of a slimy feel.
Look, we've both had that opinion.
Yeah,
if we're honest,
he gives me the ick.
Yeah,
for some reason, and I don't know what it is. It's just is what it is. So I'm happy to put Corbell as like part of the psyop.
Yeah,
like, is he a willing participant or does he believe what he's doing, but he's getting psyop? All that sort of jazz. I don't hold him accountable.
No,
I just think he's part of it. He's part of the dissemination of information.
Yes, I would say that's he's a vessel, right? Because through what he did with the Tsar and obviously through George Knapp. I mean, then you got to bring George Knapp into the picture.
But are those guys also in that same vein?
Yeah,
those media personalities.
Yeah,
that are reporting.
Yeah, well, they're in it for the story.
That's right. That's how I feel. Like Knapp was a reporter, so I feel like they're in it for the story. So wherever they get their info, as long as there's a good story there with bones in it, they'll sell it, sort of thing. So look,
but some of the footage has been pretty trippy. Like there was some stuff like literally in Maryborough, like up 4 hours north of us. Last weekend.
Yep.
And it looked like one of those balls with the cube in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like one of those light balls. There was two of them dancing around.
Yep.
Like this is footage on the pages on Facebook, right?
But is that nuts and bolts or is that the paranormal? Like,
is that an interdimensional craft?
What class do you put it into? Because if that's the case, if we're seeing that, is that necessarily which part of that does it fit into? It could fit into both.
This is the question, isn't it? What is those things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are they drones? Is it advanced tech? Look, I think all of a sudden we're going to get advanced tech. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
However, what are those things? They could be interdimensional, right? I think, and those boys echoed some thoughts I've been having about this for a while. It's like, hang on a minute. If these things are infiltrating air defense zones, there is no fucking way in the world that whatever military is not tracking them and keeping an eye on them, right?
Yeah.
There's no way. There's and they have and like this, we don't know what they are either, right? But, so I think again, mate, I feel like we've said this a lot on this show. I think it's a D all the above scenario, right?
Yeah.
I think some is maybe advanced tech,
Mm-hmm.
interdimensional stuff. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right? You got all the stuff from Skinwalker. You got all the, a lot of the Yowie type experiences, right? Like that was a crazy. I'm going to come back to that this year. Actually, I want to dive down there a little bit more. However, it could be all the same, right?
Mm.
But
No, I agree.
is there a race living under the ocean? I wonder. I wonder.
No, look, without any further like information beyond Marty's theories and Soraya's theories, it hasn't changed my perception in terms of locking down onto like joining a tribe.
Yeah.
I'm still just of that anything's possible.
Yeah.
We've got to see where it goes. Now I understand if I had 40 years like Marty had in the industry,
in the rabbit hole,
I'd be jaded from certain like he said about changing from a real nuts and bolts kind of person into his theories now.
Yeah.
Because of his exposure. So with 40 more years up my sleeve, would I be in the place where they are? Maybe. Maybe if I've ticked all those boxes and that's the only direction left, that's might be where I am. But I don't know as much as them and haven't had the experiences like them. Hence why they're at that level above where it's like,
there's
look,
definite levels.
You
right?
are just another one of the theories of what I'm sort of taking
looking
in,
at, and
because we could go back to like Sumerian gods, like go from there through in terms of like the Sumerian creation story that we're doing in EFS. So we can go ancient aliens, yada yada yada.
And I definitely think they found ancient tech. I've got no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like, the Randall's Bendall motor that's coming out is apparently a manifestation of ancient tech, which actually is a lot to do with some of the power devices we were talking about last year, which we're going to come back to as well.
Yeah.
And this is that thing too, right? So Sumerians, yes. Visitors from outer space, maybe. Us from the future, maybe.
Well, also
Right.
us attracting the attention with the atomic bombs, sort of thing. Like
you could see that.
These are lines. These are all theories that sort of tie together along the same story arc. So I'm not willing to eliminate any of them just yet because there's still also an element of entertainment to them as well.
Yeah.
As well as research. It's entertaining to go down people's theories
and explore that. And I think that's that's unlocking the code, isn't it? Right? We've got to be open to all perspectives, right? Exactly. And I think, but very valuable. And it's interesting to observe the modern disclosure. And I wonder what this year brings. And I'm going to talk to Grant Levackham, and he's going down he's part of a documentary series, right? That he's doing, which is pretty cool. I'll find out the date for that, actually. Yeah, it's interesting, man. An ever-evolving topic because, as I say, like there was weird things in the sky in Maryborough last weekend.
Yep.
So it's like I've got a picture of another one of those looked like a Tic Tac ball thing in front of an airline outside Sydney, right? It's like, how do you? What the other question is then? Why all of a sudden are they just happening, right? That's the other question.
Are they being reported more? Were they happening before? Like, which way?
Yeah, which is the perception?
Where does the line? Yeah, where does the line fall? Like, are they happening more often, or is it like cyclones and everyone thinks that they're getting worse and more often and shit?
But don't start.
There's reports that say otherwise.
Don't start on the look. We could talk about that. No, I don't think we do. Let's jump into the book, man. Let's keep going down the rabbit hole. We've meandered long enough. So we were talking about weapons. We were talking about the melted castles and the different types of energy weapons that potentially could have been used within the story. Okay.
I remember.
You remember?
We're somewhere in Scotland. In the northeast.
And you know what we discovered?
859 feet above fucking the ocean. I don't even. I think we're a bit Irish.
No, Castles of Glass.
Is that where we were?
No,
we're further down.
The Shattered Desert is where we were. Well, mate, I'll crack on, 23. Let's go.
Righto. Let's do it.
The Shattered Desert. Exhibit B. We present one of the strangest and more unusual mysteries of ancient Egypt in the form of the great glass sheets that were discovered in the Libyan desert by Patrick Clayton, a surveyor for the Egyptian Geological Survey. Clayton was driving among the dunes, which is a virtually uninhabited area of the Great Sand Sea near the Sard Plateau in Libya, just north of the southwestern corner of Egypt. Middle of nowhere, it sounds, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
When he was startled by the sound of his tires crunching loudly on something in the sand. When he alighted from his vehicle to investigate, I've never seen that word used like that. To investigate the sound, it turned out that he was driving on what appeared to be large pieces of mostly beautifully clear yellowy greenish glass. It was soon discovered that this stuff wasn't just any ordinary old yellow glass either, but that it was in fact, an ultra-pure type of glass consisting of a staggering 98% pure silica. It has also been realised that Clayton wasn't the first person to come across this field of glass, and that various prehistoric hunters and nomads had obviously also found the now famous Libyan desert glass before him. The LDG. The same glass had been used to make knives, various sharp-edged tools, and other objects that have been found in the past. It has been reported that a carved scarab of LDG was even found in Tutankhamun's tomb. There was all sorts of stuff found in Tutankhamun's tomb, man. He had boomerangs in there. Apparently there was gold from Gimpy in there. Like, he had all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, man. He had some good shit.
Yeah.
Probably someone else
Yeah. Probably some stuff.
robbed it out of the tomb previous.
Yeah. Which clearly indicates that the glass was also sometimes used for jewelry and had obviously been there for an extremely long time. The glass had, in fact, often been seen before through its use in some artifacts, but the actual location and source had been hitherto unknown until discovered by Clayton in 1932. An article written by Giles Wright that appeared in the British science magazine New Scientist July 99, The Riddles of the Sand, states that LDG is the purest natural silica glass ever found, and that was easily in excess of 1,000 tons of this ultra-pure glass lying strewn across hundreds of square kilometres of bleak, uninhabited desert in Libya. Some of the chunks have been reported to weigh as large as 26 kilograms, but most LDG is found in smaller angular pieces looking more like weathered glass shards from a gigantic broken yellow bottle. So where on earth did all this stuff just come from? How in the world did it get there? According to the article, the LDG, pure as it is, does contain some defects, tiny bubbles, white wisps, and inky black swirls. The whitish streaks consist of refractory minerals such as cristobalite, but the black ink swirls are mainly iridium, an extraterrestrial element that is commonly associated with some type of impact, such as meteorite or comet. The generally accepted theory is that the glass was most likely created by the searing sand melting impact of some sort of cosmic projectile, though no one is quite sure what. That's interesting. I wonder what, I mean, see, I haven't heard of the Libya desert glass, so
No.
wonder where it is now, I mean, 20 years later.
Probably mined.
Yeah.
It's so pure in silica.
Yeah.
They probably mined it.
Yeah, using it for electronics, I would say.
Yeah.
But again, there are some serious problems with this theory. For example, where did such an immense amount of glass shards come from? And how did they get so widely dispersed? There was also the perplexing fact that there is no evidence of any kind of any impact crater whatsoever anywhere in the vicinity, either on the surface of the desert or detected by microwave probes that have been made beneath the ground by ground-penetrating satellite radar. Furthermore, LDG is incredibly free of impurities, in fact, far more so than any other known type of glass, and actually appears to be much too pure to have been really the result of something as destructive as a meteor or comet collision, both of which are very catastrophic and extremely messy events. That's one way to put it.
Modest way to put it.
Yeah, when viewed from a geological perspective. The general vicinity around other known impact craters, such as the one in Wabba in Saudi Arabia and Henbury in Central Australia, for example, are positively littered all about with all manner of debris, chunks of exploded rock, bits of iron, traces of iridium, and other known types of fragmented meteorite material. No such debris can be found anywhere in the vicinity of the Libyan desert glass sites, though some slight traces of iridium are indeed found within the glass itself. And just to make matters even more perplexing, LDG is actually concentrated in two areas of Libyan desert, not just one. One area is large and oval-shaped, while the other is more like a strange circular ring of about 6 kilometers wide that is about 21 kilometers in diameter. It lies in the desert like a huge glass 6 kilometre wide racetrack, while the wide circular centre of the rings remain totally devoid of the glass. And what do you suppose would cause something like that to appear in the middle of a vast desert? Really doesn't seem like it could be a natural occurrence in any way, shape, or form. Another theory is that there may have been a soft projectile impact, that is, an earthbound meteorite, perhaps 30 meters in diameter, and did like a
Can I just
yeah,
Can you just pause there for a
I
second?
can, for sure.
Where
mate.
you're up to?
Yep.
So, did you work out what he meant by 6 kilometers wide and 21 kilometers in diameter? The rings were 6 kilometers wide,
And 21
and the whole circle of them was 21
kilometers
kilometers
in
in diameter
Yeah.
in total.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soft projectile. So I think you're saying like an airburst, maybe 30 meters of diameter detonated prior to actually impacting with the Earth's surface.
Yep.
Say about 10 k's above this desert, thereby creating a searing blast of hot air that melted the sand beneath it. Just as such impact is theorized to possibly happen in Tunguska, and we saw it in Russia a few years ago as well when it blew the glass out.
In the city.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Tunguska event, like the LDG, still remains a complete mystery. Randall might have some stuff to say about that. Randall's got a pretty good handle on the Tunguska event.
No.
Yet another theory holds that perhaps a comet passed close to Earth and scorched the desert sands with the friction of its passing. Geez, that'd be a close shave, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or perhaps a meteorite glanced off the desert surface, leaving a glassy crust, only a slight crater that was soon filled by the sands. But the problem with both these theories are the two known areas of LDG. Are we to suppose that there were in fact two of the cosmic projectiles that were travelling in tandem? And even so, how would it have been possible for a projectile to melt the outside of the ring, but then still leave the centre field completely intact and undamaged? There is an interesting article that appeared in a British journal called Nature in 1952 entitled Dating the Libyan Desert Silica Glass. In it, the author Kenneth Oakley said, pieces of natural silica of up to 16 pounds in weight occur scattered sparsely in an oval area. I need a drink. Hang on a second.
Sippy.
Measuring 130k north to south and 53k from east to west. And in the sand sea of the Libyan desert, this remarkable material, which is also almost pure, 97% silica, relatively light, 2.21 on the SP Gin scale, whatever that is. You look that up, Jamie. Clear and yellowish green in colour, has the qualities of a gemstone. It was discovered by the Egyptian survey expedition under Mr. P.A. Clayton in 1932 and was thoroughly investigated by Dr. L.J. Spencer, who joined a special expedition of the survey for this purpose in 1934. The pieces that are found in sand-free corridors between north and south dune ridges, about 100 metres high and 2 and 5 k's apart. These corridors or streets have a rubbly surface, rather like that of a speedway track, formed by angular gravel and red loamy weathering debris overlaying Nubian sandstone. The pieces of glass line this surface or partly embedded in it. Only a few small fragments were found below the surface, none deeper than about a metre. While undoubtedly natural, the origin of the Libyan silica glass is uncertain. In its constitution, it resembles the tektites of supposed cosmic origin, but these are much smaller. Tektites are usually black, although one variety found in Bohemia and Moravia and known as Moldavite is a clear deep green. I've seen the Moldavite. That's a pretty stone, that Moldavite. The Libyan silica glass has also been compared with the glass formed by the fusion of sand in the heat generated by the fall of a great meteorite. Reporting the findings of his expedition, Dr. Spencer said that he had not been able to trace the Libyan glass to any source. No fragments of meteorites or indications of meteorite craters could be found in the area of its distribution. It seemed easier to assume that it had simply fallen from the sky. It would be of considerable interest if the time of origin or arrival of the silica glass in the sand sea could be determined geologically or archaeologically. Its restriction to the surface of a top layer of a superficial deposit suggests that it is not of great antiquity from the geological point of view. On the other hand, it has clearly been there since prehistoric times. Or could it be entirely more plausible to assume that the vitrified desert was actually the result of a war fought sometime in the ancient past using atomic fusion or plasma weapons. The idea gathers more weight as we begin to examine further evidence.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
So he's really pushing home his idea there of ancient
Battles and
atomic
wars. Well, I mean, the melted castles. Actually, so it was interesting the other day. I think there's an article on the page on Facebook about the melted castles of Scotland, or there's some pictures I found. I posted something on there a little while ago. But yeah, I had a better look at some of those castles, like high definition photos, and they for sure look melted, man. Like something has melted the stone.
Yep. Dragons.
Yeah. Well, it could be, mate. It could be dragons as well, right?
Maybe.
Right? Do you want to have a read, mate?
No, can you keep going? I'll just finish your smoke first.
Oh,
Sorry, man. I didn't realize you were coming to the end of your.
I didn't know. I didn't know either, mate. We're in new territory.
Keep going. Punch on.
All right. Hang on.
Don't worry. I'll give you a big break.
The radioactive skeletons of Pakistan. Exhibit C can be seen in a totally baffling discovery that was made by a Soviet archaeological team investigating the ancient sites of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro.
You should know that.
I know. What do you think I was going to in Pakistan? When the scientists had excavated far enough to reach the street level of Mohenjo-Daro complex, they were surprised to discover a great number of skeletons lying unburied in the streets of the town and sprawled out as though they had suddenly been caught in some great disaster. Not unlike those caught in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius that were found at Pompeii, many of the Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro skeletons were of people holding hands or walking down the street. It appears that many of them had just been going about their daily business at their time of death. Evidence shows that the settlements of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were wiped out entirely. The walls of Mohenjo-Daro also bear signs of vitrification, and since there is no evidence of any volcanic activity in the area or any signs of an impact crater, the question again arises: to what can attribute this mass death and vitrification of stone? It's not a real good picture for the screen. That's okay. The skeletons at these sites are estimated to be thousands of years old, even by traditional archaeological dating standards. What initially puzzled scientists was that, firstly, the remains showed no obvious signs of trauma or violence that could be attributed as a cause of death, and secondly, if the bodies had just been left lying in the streets, then why were they in such good condition? Why hadn't they been devoured or at least mutilated by wild animals? How could it be that these bodies had just been left here, alone and completely untouched, long enough to be covered by the dust of time? However, further investigation revealed an even more startling discovery. The Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro skeletons are also amongst the most radioactive remains ever found, revealing radiation levels equal to those that have been recorded in corpses that were recovered from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At one particular site, the Soviet scientists recorded radiation levels from one corpse that was over 50 times greater than normal. Again, a nuclear atomic war in ancient times would adequately account for such high radiation levels. But what about a solar flare?
Well, hang on. There's just one problem with that last statement, and that is half-life.
Yeah.
So the radiation deteriorates over time.
Mm.
So, like, to compare it to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like, they would have had to start it off with a lot more radiation because it would have dropped over the thousands of years
buried in the dirt,
that they've been there. Because the radioactive isotopes break down. They have, like, a half-life of X amount of hundreds, thousands of years, whatever it is.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what the numbers are. But you are right.
So I just have an issue with that. Yeah, that last little section there. But
recorded
I mean,
radiation levels from one course were 50 times greater than normal.
Yeah, could he just be? Could they just be exaggerating it? Like it's still, they're still radioactive. Like, I'm not doubting that. But yeah,
what is the actual numbers on it? Yeah. Comparisons and stuff.
I find it hard to believe that they're the same as.
But is it another look? I mean, one of the things we've come to realize looking back through these stories is that even like back then, back in the 1800s, they had a half a theory that the brain was hydraulic because that was the technology of the time, right? There's these interesting concepts that we have that our technology at the time, it's like, okay, yeah, so we understand radiation like that.
Yeah.
To be from an impact, right? What else could cause that level of radiation? Could a meteorite impact? Well, he's saying there is no impact nearby, however, or volcanic stuff.
Yeah, but it doesn't, like an airburst, it doesn't mean it had to actually have impacted.
True.
Like there's
True.
the other, can't remember the name of it now, but there's another Egyptian city up by the Mediterranean, I believe, and it's fucking like, they thought it had been like sacked.
Yeah.
But
It had been destroyed.
everything lays in this, like everything looks like it's been knocked over in the same direction.
Yeah.
From like a possible fucking airburst.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the new theories
Hang on.
coming
He's
through.
he's
now.
in the room again. He's going to talk about residual radiation levels. A word must also be said on the estimated age of these skeletons. Whilst it's true that remains have been radiocarbon dated to around 2500 BC, it must be remembered that carbon dating requires measuring the amounts of residual radiation levels that are left in any organic object. However, when a radioactive event like an atomic explosion has occurred in the vicinity of the site, the remains that are found will contain significant amount of radiation due to the event and thus appear to be significantly younger than they actually are. If the ruins and the radioactive skeletons found at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were indeed the result of such an event in ancient times, then the true age of the site may be anyone's guess. That's just a little tidbit. A lot of questions there. Like, I mean, again, there's another little topic that I would put on the list to go and do a bit of a deep dive in again, you know, like what happened to the radioactive skeletons from Mohenjo-daro?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting one.
All right, brother.
You're going to take over. Oh, tektites. Oh, do you know our tektites gone missing, man?
Is it?
Yeah, it's disappeared. I don't know where it went. Look, I suspect the fairies may have
I
something
was
to do
gonna
with it.
say.
However, really that it went back to the spaceship.
Maybe it encapsulated a soul. All right, tektites. An enigmatic exhibit D is the large areas of desert that have been found strewn with mysterious globules of glass, known as tektites. Tektites are occasionally discussed in geological literature, though not very often, as they tend to pose more questions than answers. They are blobs of hardened glass, and one possibility is that they come from meteorite impacts in most instances. But evidence shows that in the majority of cases, there is no nearby impact crater. Plus, there is also the problem that many tektites contain traces of non-earthly elements. Another possibility is that tektites have a terrestrial explanation. Only that theory is almost never explored, as it involves ancient war and the use of atomic or other weapons capable of melting sand. The debate of tektites was summed up quite well in an article entitled The Tektite Problem by John O'Keefe, published in Scientific American in August of 1978. If tektites are terrestrial, it means that some process exists that which soil in common rocks can be converted to an instant into homogeneous, water-free, bubble-free glass and be propelled.
Sorry, had to pass the mouse.
Thanks, man. I completely forgot about it.
You get to the end of the page, I'm like, oh, you can't go any further.
Thousands of miles above the atmosphere. If tektites come from the moon, it seems to follow that there is at least one powerful volcano somewhere on the moon that has erupted at least as recently as 750,000 years ago.
That's Bruce Fenton's work. Tektites.
Tektites, yep. Oh, yeah. Neither possibility is easy to accept, yet one of them must be accepted, and I believe it is feasible to pick the more reasonable one by rejecting the more unlikely. The key to solving the tektite problem is an instance on a physically reasonable hypothesis and a resolute refusal to be impressed by mere numerical coincidences, such as the similarity of terrestrial sediments to tektite material. I believe that the lunar volcanism hypothesis is the only one physically possible, and that we have to accept it. If it leads to unexpected but not impossible conclusions, that is precisely its utility. To cite just one example of the utility, the lunar origin of tektites strongly supports the idea that the moon was formed by fission of the earth.
Okay.
Boom. It was just like, now listen, this is what it has to be.
Read on, my friend.
That's a first. That's a first in this book.
Mm.
He's not normally so pushy.
Mm.
Tektites are indeed much more like terrestrial rocks than one would expect of a chance assemblage. If tektites come from lunar magma, then deep inside the moon there must be material that is very much like the mantle of the Earth. More like the mantle than it is the shallower parts of the moon from which the lunar surface basalts have originated. If the moon was formed by fission of the Earth, the object that became the moon would have been heated intensely and from the outside, and would have lost most of its original mass, and in particular, the more volatile elements. The lavas constituting most of the moon's present surface were erupted early in the moon's history, when its heat was concentrated in the shallow depleted zone quite near the surface. During the recent periods represented by tektite falls, the sources of lunar volcanism have necessarily been much deeper, so that any volcanoes responsible for tektites have drawn on the lunar material that suffered least during the period of ablation and is therefore most like unaltered terrestrial mantle material. Ironically, that would explain why tektites are in some way more like terrestrial rocks than they are like rocks on the lunar surface. There is, of course, one other explanation for the existence of tektites, and that is that they serve as strong evidence of nuclear events in our past. As much as the theory disagrees with the accepted academic version of history, the evidence is just far too compelling to simply ignore without adequate investigation.
You see what he did there? He sold us a dummy. He's like, no, it's the moon. And hang on, no, it's not the moon. It might be the moon.
Yeah, because he'd already mentioned ancient nuclear events.
Yeah.
And then he went away from it, buckled down on the
So
on the moon. And
I
then
mean, I've been studying. I
skipped back.
Volcanoes on the moon. I don't know, right? Where do you? I mean, where would you sit with a volcano?
First I've ever heard of it.
Never heard of it to this day.
No, but and surely wouldn't
you would see?
You would. Well, wouldn't you think it would be on this side in terms of like that's the side being
faces
pulled
the
on?
moon. Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know where this volcano is meant to be.
Because we've looked at the moon quite a lot, and there's no
fucking dude. Everyone's looked at the moon quite a lot. If there was a fucking volcano, I think we'd all know.
Did it randomly shoot stuff at you every now and again?
I think we'd fucking know.
Yeah, it's your turn. Hang on, bosun. Yeah, like I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Volcanoes on the moon.
Now, could it be on the opposite side of the moon? Because, like, let's say the gravity's pulling it towards the Earth. Well, does that cause fissures? Like, if you're pulling the surface of the moon towards the Earth, does that cause fissures at the back where it splits open? So, is there volcanoes on the backside that we can't see, and it spits it out into space, and then we orbit through it? Possibly.
Oh, there you go. See,
just thinking outside the box.
I like it, man. You what? You've got to throw that perspective out there.
But
there's bases on the dark side of the moon.
Well, the thing is, this is not where Max is going, because the harpoon of Horus, where we know for sure that he's going into ancient weapons.
Yeah.
So Exhibit E, further documentary and pictorial evidence in the form of ancient texts describe a fierce war that raged between the two Egyptian deities, Horus and Seth. As mentioned by Sitchin in the Wars of Gods and Men, temple inscriptions at Edfu in Egypt report that during his battles with Osiris, Horus launched into the air in a Nar, a fiery pillar. These vehicles are described as being elongated, cylindrical, and equipped with short fins near the rear. What does that sound like?
It's a rocket.
The bulkhead is said to have contained two eyes, which constantly changed color from blue to red to black to blue. The vehicle produced vapors and trails from its rear and emitted rays from the front. They even drew a picture of it for us. Funny how the ancient depiction of a Nar seems to look just like some kind of rocket. Funny that. During the battle, Horus was hit by a bolt of light from the flying vehicle of Seth, while he himself flew about in the winged disc of Ra. Horus is is then reported to have struck Seth with a harpoon, which the texts describe as a weapon of 30.
30.
There is picture that exists from Edfu depicting the harpoon of Horus, which strongly suggests that the device was perhaps a multiple warhead missile consisting of, I was thinking like a Patriot missile,
Yeah.
they split up into multiple small ones.
Yeah.
Of a large warhead that broke open to reveal two smaller multiple warheads. The nickname Weapon of 30, the device received suggests that each inner warhead possibly contained 15 smaller devices, perhaps by sheer coincidence. A very similar device is a model naval warhead missile that is manufactured by McDonnell Douglas, which also happens to be called a harpoon.
That's the ones that come out of the submarines.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
What, underwater or the ones out of the top?
The ones out of the top.
Ah, okay.
And the destroyers as well.
Yep.
You saw them in that movie Battlefield or Battleship. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones where they pop out and they've got the wings on them. Then they split.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Mm.
I like it. The mysterious Sinai. Exhibit F is a huge and very mysterious plane that can be found in the Sinai Desert. The tales of creation, ancient wars, and great annihilation by sophisticated weapons told by the ancient Sumerians talk of a great destruction that was wrought upon an ancient spaceport that is said to have existed in that vicinity and that was utterly destroyed by advanced weaponry. If such an event really occurred, surely some trace of such devastation would still be found. And indeed,
I've heard of this.
Such
can still be seen in the area.
Such can still be seen in the area. I'm wondering, you say you've heard of this. Was this not mentioned? This was in EFS earlier. Like, that's where
the Sinai Desert. Yeah.
You were reading a lot about the Sinai Peninsula.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just, I think that's where I've...
No, when I used to know the Israeli militarized zone, what the thought that came to me then is that I know that there's a base outside Israel that's got all these ancient ruins and stuff on it, and you're just not allowed to go there.
Oh, no.
That's the remilitarized zone.
Right.
They just put a big fence up, and it's like, can we go and look at the ruins? No, mate. No, you can't. Go away.
Okay, well, if such an event really occurred, surely some trace of such devastation would still be found, and indeed, such can still be seen in the area presently known as the Israeli militarized zone of the Sinai Peninsula. The area contains a vast triangular plain that consists of normal colored sands, but appears black from a distance because the ground is literally covered with scorched and blackened rocks. The extent of the contrasts on this plain that continues to baffle scientists was not fully realized until satellite pictures were taken of the area, which only succeeded in adding to the mystery.
Yeah, so it's the bottom bit there.
Yeah. Little map of Tassie down the bottom there, mate. Get out your fine china. Sumerian texts tell us this plain was the location of the ancient spaceport, the Eden, and the 5 other vital control centers that were completely obliterated in the final conflicts of the Anunnaki by 7 weapons of terror. And it is here that we find a huge blackened scar on the planet's surface that can be likened to nowhere else on Earth. Now, what do you suppose would cause that?
I mean, obviously, earlier on in the series, we were talking about the Vimana and that as well, right? Because it's like there's so many stories of these ancient battles, right? You know, things battling in the sky, right?
Gods have battled.
Yes.
Pre monotheistic God.
Yeah.
Gods battled, even though we had like fallen angels and shit as well.
So
in the current sort of ruling religion, but like
pre-Christianity,
paganism,
Thor and Odin, and
exactly,
and
Greek gods, Roman gods, fucking Sumerian gods, Egyptian gods, all of those ones.
All stories, all stories.
They were always they were battling.
The sky,
100%.
I wanna s-
Funny that part of the story disappeared.
Yeah. Facts are stupid things. That was former US President Ronald Reagan.
So we're knuckling down into the chapter 13, the Grand Deception. We have discussed ancient texts, and we have seen an abundance of evidence to support them. And still, we have only really scratched the surface. Some of the conclusions have staggering implications for mankind, and yet the information is being disregarded. Is there indeed a global conspiracy in place to keep this information out of the public eye?
You would have to wonder.
Wonder what the motivation would be.
Yeah.
There's great stories there. Such things are invariably denied. But before we continue on our quest, we will put the puzzle aside for a brief moment to discuss this phenomenon. Naturally, and as I previously stated, I'm well aware that whenever anyone mentions the word conspiracy in our modern and supposedly free society, especially in regard to the government or the scientific or academic communities, they are sure to attract a storm of criticism. They are, of course, always at the ready to discredit anyone suggesting such an idea and create a media circus around them to distract any attention away from the actual point they're trying to make. In these cases, it is always good to a good rule of thumb to be wary of anyone who relies on invoking their academic credentials to support their case, because it invariably means that they have no valid arguments of their own to present to the table, so they can only resort to waiving credentials and launching personal attacks in such a way that it allows them to ignore the actual evidence that is being presented. Of course, the media is only too happy to back them up and publicize the tasty bits too, if need be. As briefly discussed in the first chapter, conspiracies actually do happen quite often, and in the case of our history, the evidence of an entirely different course of events is now simply far too overwhelming to just be dismissed. The irony of it all is that most of it is right out in plain view. The good news is that the participants in the conspiracy, keeping the facts suppressed, are quite obvious. Their overall plain and daily tactics become predictable and transparent once you have acquired the necessary skills to spot them.
It didn't this age well.
Although it's not always easy to penetrate the smokescreen of propaganda and disinformation to get to the real agenda hidden beneath. However, the bad news is that the conspiracy is global, and there are some very big players involved who have worked very hard to get to the current academic mindset deeply ingrained in our psyche. Of course, the Persian Gulf region has been kept a war zone for so long now that it's kind of hard to get in there to do much more investigation.
Another 15 years after this was written.
Perhaps after they have bombed all trace of any ancient ruins out of existence, they will let people back in to investigate. In the meantime, our government seem to work very hard to provide as many distractions in people's daily lives as they can. This is because if you can keep the population living on the edge all the time, they end up caught up with the rigors of daily modern life, getting to work, paying the bills, looking out for the kids, worrying about the economy, college fund, the groceries, the neighbors, terrorists, God, taxes, fine print, the environmental, and keeping up with the Joneses, that they don't really notice or often care about looking at the bigger picture to see what's going on around them, let alone what may have happened in the past.
Well, Max, well said, mate. And Look, I don't even know what to say about that. after the last 3 years of existence
Well,
in the modern
it's
age,
all
you know what I
still
mean?
prevalent.
It
Mate.
is
That's
exactly
what,
like it's just the rabbit hole's gotten deeper.
that's what we need to remember.
Yeah,
Nothing's new under the sun.
no, that's right.
The cover up in motion. You ready to have another go, mate?
I can have a go, mate.
All right, I'll let you jump in.
All right. The cover up in motion. There are a great number of scholars who have attempted to bring some very substantial and worthwhile information to public knowledge, but have all been publicly vilified whether their information was credible or not. I mean, I just want to mention, if we're going to stick on the topic that we're on and not divert to the last 3 years of chaos, the fact that the Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix got labeled white supremacist is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. Right? I don't even know where to start with some of that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, apparently, though, there's someone coming on he's going to challenge Graham.
Yep.
But they can't nail down a date. Because
Right, okay.
what are they going to do? Spend a year researching Graham's material and go, oh, no, he's right.
Yeah.
You know, like there's something here that we can't deny.
Yeah.
No,
look, half the reason I think why no one wants to debate Graham is because, well, for starters, Graham and Joe are obviously friends.
Mm.
So you're coming in pretty hot there. And then also,
you're in a hostile environment.
You're in a hostile environment. However middle of the road Joe wants to be like, we're here to hear books, whatever, to mediate it.
Yeah.
There's a bias there.
Yeah.
They can't help it.
Mm.
So, like, there's that. Then there's, like, the fact that if these people are archaeologists or whatever,
yeah,
are they necessarily very good at fucking speaking?
No, they're probably not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are they at Graham's level?
Yeah.
So
Graham's, that's the issue. I heard some of this thing. I don't know what I was listening to the other day. However, it was like these archaeologists are annoyed because, we're contributing to the whole. However, Uncharted X and all these other guys getting tens of thousands of views on their pages, whereas an archaeological paper would be lucky to be read by 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. And the evidence they're presenting is compelling, and there's got to be, if nothing else, with all this stuff, there's questions that need to be asked to at least have an honest look at some of the answers, man. But I think you're right. And I think Michael Shermer learned as well, right? Because he came in pretty hot with Graham and Randall, and he was sort of put on his heels a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So they've seen that before, and then you've got to, you come in. It's a pretty. Plus, you got to think about, depending on how he comes off, how he's going to be viewed for the rest of his life. There's a lot of reputation at stake there.
Debate, it's
exactly. Like, obviously his backers wouldn't let him lose after the debate.
Yeah,
they would be twisting the moral of the story. So yeah, it would be hard to know, sort of like, unless it was super clear who won the debate, because they'd both twisted in their own ways.
That's true. It's true. Where were we? Publicly vilified. Even some people who have just been doing their job have had their lives reduced to tatters for not being prepared to lie in the name of science. Well, yes, Max, that is very true. Fucking hell. However, it has become apparent that the academic community also has in place a very distinct set of double standards when it comes to the free flow of any information. Academia considers scientists to consist of highly educated, well-trained, and intellectually capable people, and they deduce that they, and only they, are able to assimilate and process scientific information and then make the correct critical distinctions between fact and fiction, the reality and fantasy, and right and wrong, while we, the uneducated and unwashed public, is very simply deemed to be incapable of functioning on this higher mental plane of superior intellectuality. The current academic community sadly has this of demeanor, intellectual superiority permeating through it deeply. I need the mouse. It has been.
I thought you were dancing.
No. I'm like, dude, I'm trying.
You know, like the Hawaiian hula dances. That's what I thought you were doing. Your hula dances,
Just
bro.
doing something for the camera.
Yeah.
It has been that way for some time. It is an attitude that it is simply veiled by meticulously planned and carefully and orchestrated public relations. To the public, science and progress can always be seen as byproducts of each other, but unfortunately, such is not always the case. It's just cleverly made to look that way. In order to work as a functioning institution in an open and democratic society, science has to operate within the same parameters as society at large. Science, by its very nature, needs to be open to debate, argument, and counter-argument. No, mate, you got to trust the science, man.
No, but
You can't.
if we don't do that, then we've lost the idea of science.
Exactly. Well, I'm just saying, you got to trust the science, man.
I know. Yeah.
Climate science, everything. The science is just the way, man.
Yeah. It's funny how, like, science, there's like the scientific method.
Yeah.
But then we use this word science that really just means shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Smarter people than you have looked at
That's
this.
right. It's science,
It's
man.
science.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah. It's like,
there's no place for unquestioned authoritarianism and ego in true science. Turns out authoritarianism made a bit of a comeback, mate. Yet it exists and in full view. Even Alfred Wegener, the German meteorologist who first proposed the theory of plate tectonics back in 1915, was the subject of some very spiteful attacks and has his discovery buried for some 50 years because he dared to bruise various academic egos. Einstein was first thought a fool. It is unfortunate now that we see the same unscientific approach applied to many other fields of study, just as it's become the norm in modern archaeology and anthropology. More and more often we see situations where scientists quite simply refuse to prove the theories they present to us, yet they appoint themselves as the final arbiters of the facts, while the real information is hurriedly suppressed. This is often done in full view. We have seen, for example, the trouble that was caused for the farmer who discovered the Ica stones in Peru and the extraordinary efforts made to discredit the significant research and substantial geological testing done on the Sphinx by West and Schock, even to the extent of banning them from future Giza research. Graham Hancock has also been ferociously attacked for his book Fingerprints of the Gods, in which he put forth several theories containing a great deal of merit concerning a common link between many ancient cultures in the past. Links that point to one much earlier civilization preceding theirs, one that they had all had some contact with. His theories contain some extremely valid arguments, but as usual, academia could only wave their doctorates and insult the work without even being able to present any counter evidence to back up their own claims. While Hancock's book actually contained a substantial amount of validating research, and take the quite high-profile case of Dr. Virginia Steen McIntyre as another fine example of the academic bottom line. Well, Hancock's still copping it, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he's been at the front lines, dude, for 30 years.
Yeah, what was this? Did we work out? 2006?
Yeah, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
somewhere there.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that era.
Yeah. McIntyre was a geologist who worked for the U.S. Geological Survey in the 70s. She was sent to an archaeological site in Mexico to date a particular group of artifacts. To conduct the test, she used state-of-art equipment and even backed up and confirmed her results by employing 4 different methods used in the testing. But her findings in all the tests were just way too astonishing for her peers. You see, the project's lead archaeologist at the site had been expecting a date of about 25,000 years or less for the artifacts. But McIntyre's results produced a date of 250,000 years or more. The problem was the figure of 25,000 years or less was needed to validate the accepted Bering Strait crossing theory, and so the lead archaeologist dismissed McIntyre's finding and asked for a new set of tests. Dr. McIntyre was then asked to retract her conclusions and present the team with a more satisfactory finding, but she refused, saying the tests she had already conducted were most definitely correct. Excuse me. Since that time, Dr. McIntyre, who is a very talented scientist, has found it extremely difficult to get any of her papers published and was dismissed from her teaching position at an American university. Her case aptly illustrates just how far established scientists are prepared to go to safeguard orthodox tenets. And it would appear that ruining a person's life to preserve the academic status quo, as in the case of Dr. McIntyre, who had literally studied for years to obtain her credentials and had produced accurate results in the test, was certainly no cause for concern. Old school cancel culture, man.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
Nothing new. There was also an amazing case in New Zealand where the government even went as far as enacting a new law preventing the public from entering a site that was considered to be particularly controversial and the issue too sensitive. In this bizarre series of events, we can see quite well that it is not only the academic community that is concerned with protecting the orthodox views that have been presented to us. This particular controversy first erupted around a site that was located in the Waipua Forest in New Zealand. Excavations at the local location had amazingly revealed evidence of an ancient non-Polynesian culture once existing on the islands that far predated the Maori. The Maori people learned of these findings before they were officially released and were not at all happy about them, as they considered to be infringement on their heritage. Yeah, no, they ate the dudes that were there, man. That's what happened. They gathered together a spokes team and proceeded to complain bitterly about the results to the New Zealand government. However, the public soon got word of what the Maori people were up to. They also complained, but of course the government denied the entire affair. The outcome of the original meeting, when the complaint was made by the Maori, however, was an official archival document that is still in existence today, which actually shows that an embargo had indeed been placed on the Waipua site by the New Zealand government. This archival document aptly demonstrates the New Zealand government's clear intention to withhold vital archaeological information from the public through legal means for a period of 75 years. They like that. They like that, don't they? In his book, Ancient Celtic New Zealand, author Mark Dutre says that he is very concerned about the issue. He believes valuable artifacts were removed from the site, proving there was indeed an earlier culture existing which preceded the Maoris on the islands, are now also missing from museums. Where are the ancient Indo-European hair samples, wavy red-brown hair, originally obtained from a rock shelter near Waitakere, that were on display in the Auckland War Memorial Museum for many years? Where is the giant skeleton found near Mitimati? Dutra asks, and with good cause, as the disappearance of these artifacts and any of these sorts of occurrences are very real attempts to defraud the world out of its true heritage and factual history. The case of the Taklamakan desert mummies, which were found in Western China, is another fine example of its hidden agenda in scientific attitude. In case you missed it, it all went down in a now all too predictable fashion. The remains of an unaccounted for and previously known Caucasian culture were unearthed in the Taklamakan area in the 1970s. What was discovered at the site were the remains of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people that apparently once lived in pre-dynastic China. The arid desert environment had also preserved the mummies very well. All the specimens that were recovered were dressed in colourful robes, boots, stockings, and hats. Even though there are a number of Asian bodies that were found buried inside the Caucasian mummies, but beside the Caucasian mummies, the Chinese were not at all pleased about the discovery and greatly downplayed the enigmatic find. A writer for National Geographic magazine, Thomas B. Allen, commented about the pottery shard, about a pottery shard that he had found at the location, which still bore a fingerprint of the potter who had made it. When he inquired of a Chinese scientist who was present if he was able to take the fragment to a forensic anthropologist for investigation, the Chinese scientist then asked him if he would be able to tell the fingerprint whether the potter was a white man or a Chinese man. Allen replied that he wasn't sure that the test would show either way, but maybe he would have to see what the forensics guy said. The response to the Chinese scientist was to quietly pocket the fragment and quickly walk away. Yes, there always seems to be an innumerable amount of things that get in the way of anything but orthodox scientific discovery and disclosure. It's just the same story over and over again, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
That's it, mate.
Unfortunately, we are seeing governments and even many peoples around the world now viewing such archaeological evidence of ancient races as a threat to ethnocentrism more and more. Such a notion is, of course, ridiculous because to acknowledge the existence of an ancient civilization does not in any way detract from the achievements of any subsequent civilization that may have risen in the same place. It does, however, prevent people from claiming to have built monuments that they in fact didn't, in the case of the monuments at Baalbek and Egypt. But let's face it, folks, if the Egyptians really did build the pyramids way back then, they would be able to do it now. And they, or anyone else for that matter, can't do it now. So it's quite reasonable to surmise that they didn't do it then either. Well, the thing that with all these sites in South America and Egypt, we already know this, right? The newer the stuff, the worse it gets. It doesn't get better as time moves forward. It gets worse, and like significantly worse too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're another 2,500-ish years on from that, so
Yeah.
it's got even worse now.
Mm.
I think that's a little bit of a throwaway statement from Max about them being able to build it now.
We could build some of that stuff now.
No, but he's saying the Egyptians could. It's like it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, windows of time.
Windows of time, my friend.
Where are we?
But the point still sits there. Sorry, man, to interrupt.
You're
But
right.
the point still sits there that yes, the older stuff was better,
Hmm.
which points to the fact that maybe it came from a previous civilization.
They were trying to emulate
Yes.
the work. As we already noted, the pyramids are a source of immense national pride for the Egyptians, and they would simply hate to have to admit they didn't build them. But the thing is, someone from that area built them. You know what I mean? That's the whole point too. It's like someone who lived there built them, right? Even though the obvious truth now that has been long since proven is that they were well known, at least back as far as 4000 BC, as they've been found to be depicted on clay tablets and stelae found from that period. Yeah, some of the Sumerian stuff, and there's some other stuff there. That there's been depictions of the pyramids. Yet another remarkable and very well documented instance is the case of Michael Cremo, which again is a very good example of just how far the academic community is prepared to go to suppress quite valid information. Cremo's highly controversial book, Forbidden Archaeology, which is fascinating, very good book, discusses numerous examples of enigmatic ancient artifacts, such as those mentioned in Chapter 2, all of which have been ignored and all which prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that the antiquity of modern man far exceeds the time frame that is presented to us in orthodox chronologies. Cremo's book was extremely well researched and presented some very substantial arguments. And so, in 96, NBC used some material of the book to feature an excellent TV special entitled The Mysterious Origins of Man. However, when the NBC aired the presentation, the reaction from the academic community was like a shockwave. It's misinformation. In a seething mass of abuse, the NBC literally inundated with letters and calls from IRAP members of various faculties accusing the network of deception and calling the producer a fraud. Still others called the whole program a hoax and a sham, claiming the airing of it was a lie to the public. Graham just got all of those things said. Yeah. But because the evidence displayed on the program was so damaging to the deception that academia was intent on perpetuating, merely complaining was not all they did. They actually attempted to force NBC not to run the program a second time. The NBC simply ignored them and aired it again anyway, and so a group of scientists then took the most radical step imaginable. In their fear and desperation that people may actually believe the findings reported in the TV special, they gathered their trusty doctorates together and presented their case to the federal government, formally requesting that the Federal Communications Commission step in and ban the NBC from ever airing the program again. I mean, balls you got on you. You know what I mean? Like, this is the way it is, and we're not even going to talk to you. We're just going to go straight to the top.
Yeah,
man. And you don't have to, and you don't have to just believe me. This is all very well documented. A letter that was written to the FCC during the affair by Dr. Alison Palmer, who is the president of the Institute of Cambrian Studies, is also quite revealing. At the very least, the NBC should be required to make substantial primetime apologies to their viewing audience for a sufficient period of time so the audience clearly gets the message that they were duped. In addition, NBC should perhaps be fined sufficiently so that a major fund for the public science education can be established. Public science education, what on earth is that supposed to mean? Freudian slip, maybe? And seriously, they actually want to fine a television station for airing a scientific theory because it differs from the orthodox tenet, and fine them to the extent of that a major fund can be established? Isn't that possibly a little extreme? Besides, I thought that schools and universities were supposed to incorporate such things as science into their curriculum. So then it really must be questioned what they actually exactly they intend to do. Only that's the first one, man.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
It's been a rough night.
Yeah.
I haven't been smooth myself.
No.
Been a bit jerky.
Well, we're
first time
back,
mate.
We're
off
rusty.
a big break.
What exactly they intend to actually teach at such a public service? Jesus. Wow. Public science. It might be nearly the end for tonight, mate.
Maybe. I'll have another go and then we'll see what we reckon.
Yeah. Or are we to assume that there is a difference between science and public science? Well, yes, there is, mate. You must trust the science. They are science, man. It seems pretty obvious that such a center would be merely a venue for displaying neat tricks and orthodox theories and be far more involved and concerned with teaching people what to think rather than how to think. These actions by academia against the NBC represent a very real attempt to impede commerce and a blatantly visible infringement of free speech, and an obvious attempt to open the censorship of a free and democratic intellectual discourse. Can you imagine the reaction if the world or anyone tried to suppress any information that is presented to us by orthodox scientists or academics? The reaction will be one of united outrage from all quarters, people, scientists, and governments. There are endless amount of these blatant moves to stifle valid information. I could possibly fill an entire book with case histories very similar to those that I presented to you. All right, we might just leave that there because I think he just goes on about that for a little while longer. Because obviously I'm reading this and I'm like, we just survived the biggest psychological experiment and deception in the history of man. So, at NBC cancelling a program, bit small fry, man, now in 1023, you know what I mean? Like, it happens, dude.
Exactly. I'll take it from here, brother.
You want to take it from there?
Yeah, mate.
A
We'll move
mosaic
into
of
a
history.
mosaic of history. Because the real facts kept so well hidden by the powers that be, getting to the real truth and trying to piece together all the pieces, hints, myths, legends, evidences, and texts, and then separate the true facts from the enormous amount of disinformation that is circulated can sometimes be an extremely daunting task. But eventually, as new evidence comes to light, a coherent picture begins to form and some realities can be gleaned. It has been abundantly shown through the discussion so far that an incredible number of enigmatic artifacts do actually exist that can only be explained by accepting the reality that the people of ancient times did in fact possess an advanced scientific knowledge, and the history that we have been presented with by academia is completely wrong. The main objective of this book so far has been to provide information to the reader in order to illustrate the point that in regards to history, things are not all what they seem, and from looking at the previous evidence, we can at this point safely deduce the following points. 1. It is an undeniable fact that the very first civilization that existed in our records possessed very detailed astronomical, astrological, and cosmological knowledge right from its very inception, that such knowledge can only possibly be discovered through the use of advanced science, and we have amply demonstrated the impossibility of man ever coming up with such information as precession of the zodiac through his own devices in ancient times. It has also been abundantly demonstrated by many scholars and authors that the correlations between the structures, temples, alignments, and numerical references in the myths and legends from a great number of vastly different ancient races, coupled with the nature of the myths and legends themselves, all undeniably point to a common link in our distant past. 2. We have seen geological and fossil records displaying indisputable proof that it is a fact modern man existed contemporaneously with prehistoric life forms that lived apparently millions of years ago. Yet, at the time, discovered irrefutable genetic evidence proving beyond doubt that the essence of man, the human genome, is no more than 200,000 years old. We have also seen the very same genetic studies provide evidence of the vast differences between man and primates, proving beyond itchy eyeball. Wow. That's a new one out of left field. Proving beyond doubt the fact that Darwin's theory of evolution is essentially flawed, that man could never possibly have evolved from primates through evolution on its own, and we have now, even more recently, witnessed the discovery of an entirely new species of miniature humans, Floriensis, further confounding believers of both Darwin's theory and religious creationism. Oh, poor old eyes are getting a bit dry. We have also demonstrated evidence of genetically manipulated plants that have existed all over the earth since ancient times.
Do you want me to go? Let's go point for point.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
3. This information has had the tangible effect of providing credible evidence to suggest that the dinosaurs did not in fact die out 65 million years ago, but survived a great deal longer. We have in turn discovered quite recently that dinosaurs were warm-blooded creatures more resembling birds and not the slow-moving reptiles they were once thought to be.
4. Indisputable evidence, now recognized by scholars and theologians alike, has also shown us it is an absolute fact that all creation stories stem from the one ancient account, an account that has now been demonstrated to in fact be a vividly detailed narrative of a series of dramatic celestial and genetic events, the details of which were first recounted by the ancient Sumerians.
Amongst others now, with the research. 5. Modern scientific and astronomical data now parallels this Sumerian story of the creation of our solar system, inscribed on clay tablets thousands of years ago. It has also been openly admitted by scientists that the data received from the Voyager spacecraft showed us that everything we thought we knew about the cosmos before that point was entirely wrong. Yet by way of comparison, we have seen that the ancient Sumerian accounts adequately and satisfactorily explain every single enigmatic aspect of our solar system, right down to the eccentricities of Pluto's orbit, the sideways rotation of Uranus, the asteroid belt, and the existence of the comets and their elongated and retrograde clockwise orbits.
6. We can also see in these tales vast evidence that suggests a detailed knowledge of still other information that we are still now discovering, such as DNA. We have also had it made clear to us by the Sumerian account there is yet another, still yet unknown planetary body in our solar system, and this information has now been confirmed as recently as 2005. Even more of the Sumerian accounts are being backed up by modern scientific data. Even the enigmatic face on Mars and its nearby ruins is mentioned in the ancient Sumerian texts.
Interesting fast forward where the face on Mars is a little bit, but there's definitely some interesting stuff coming out of Mars. And as far as joking goes,
got bones in it.
Yeah, the Nibiru, they reckon there's something out there, but I don't think they've actually pinpointed its location. I don't think they know where it is. Well, they're not telling us where it is.
Well, there's the whatever the belt is out like that Pluto kind of belongs in.
Yeah,
this is what was why they struggle with like Pluto and that for so long, because there's a gravitational force out there that they can't account for.
Yeah, the Valent.
This is the other
the wobble.
Well, and this is the other place where like the whole twin suns sort of theory comes from as well.
Yeah,
sort of thing, because they're trying to account for this gravitational pull from outside of the solar system.
Yeah,
that they can't account for mathematically.
That seems to be changing. Yeah. 7. It has been demonstrated that these texts also provide 6,000-year-old documented reports and pictorial evidence that the pyramids existed even in ancient Sumerian times, adding noticeable details like mentioning the enigmatic sealed ascending passage, the lack of remains within the strange and twisting well shaft of the Great Pyramid. All are adequately explained by Sumerian texts. We have discussed how this time frame is still further supported by geological evidence, proving it to be a fact that the Sphinx is at least 10,500 years old, further attesting to the existence of the far greater antiquity of the Giza site. We have then shown that in Egypt, actual texts exist that explain the processes involved in the synthesis of hardened limestone, amply demonstrated that these methods do in fact work, indicating that the pyramids were most likely cast in a manner similar to concrete. Yeah. Yes and no. I'm not sold on that yet.
We've moved down the path since then, Max.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't think so. It has also been shown that it is quite possible to soften stone through the use of common plant extracts in order to build megalithic structures like the ancient Mayan temples. Definitely. We can see that the practice is even still performed in modern times. The doctors making stone idols. Ancient texts have told us of ancient water treatments and refinery plants in South America, and we have hang on, mate.
Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. My bad.
And we have located ancient enigmatic structures at the sites that contain complex networks of sluice tunnels made from smoothened mica that are perfect for the task. And the true purpose of these structures has been abundantly proven by authors such as Zachariah Sitchin, which is interesting.
Number 8. That was a wordy one.
It was a wordy one.
Number 8. No, not so bad here. I was just looking down to see where 9 was. It's not too far away. We have also seen it is a fact that megalithic ruins do exist on the seabed in various places throughout the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. proving the reality of sunken cities and global cataclysms, and even recently found the traces of an ancient global alphabet. We have viewed artifacts from all over the world that prove it is a fact that ancient man had machinery capable of manufacturing precision-made devices of intricate complexity. This has been reinforced by the discovery of ancient texts that continue well documented, highly detailed, and credible accounts of flying machines. Texts that serve no religious or moral accord, but serve only as technical manuals. These texts have been corroborated by artifacts at ancient sites that present pictorial evidence of such machines in tombs and on stele from antiquity.
That's those those episodes we did on the Vimana and the technical details back in earlier this. Like there's look back through the EFSs to look at those. Really interesting. And for sure, it was a technical manual. It was a flight manual. That's what it was, right?
100%.
9. We have further discussed the Sumerian and Indian legends of great wars that were fought in the past using incredible weapons, and then seen evidence of such wars in radioactive skeletal remains, numerous vitrified ruins, the enigmatic plains of blackened plains of the Sinai, and the strange Libyan desert glass. We have further seen that such weapons are absolutely possible through recent advances in our own sciences.
10. We have heard talk of an ancient race who built cities along a route leading to a spaceport. We have located and seen all the sites of these ancient places and also discovered an immeasurably ancient 88 by 44 meter platform made of 300-ton blocks, surrounded by a retaining wall containing 3 800-ton blocks of hewn stone. These are well beyond our current transportation capabilities, at the very site where the spaceport landing pad was said to have been located.
And pretty much still today. I think what I got out of that one through this process was I hadn't thought about the road that you're going to drive an 800-ton block up.
Yep.
And where's the road?
Hmm.
Like, what does it take to be able to sustain that weight up a hill?
Yeah.
Right? How did they do that?
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it when we read this one.
100%.
Definitely took me down a different path. 12. We were also quite adequately shown that the people of our ancient past already knew all of these things, and that their science had evolved to such a degree that their science, their religion, and their entire way of life were all intertwined into one entity. We have, in fact, seen indisputable evidence that everything we thought we knew about our history and everything that is being taught to our children in schools about this as fact is quite simply wrong or highly suspect and very debatable, to say the least. I can't disagree with any of those words. I actually totally agree with that.
Yep.
Not only that, but this information is actually quite well known to academia, but despite that fact, things that are known to be as fallacious about our true past are still being presented and taught as absolutes. So the real question becomes why? Why are we being lied to? Why are the continuous attempts to keep information suppressed so intense and dramatic? Why is the real information so closely hoarded and then so viciously guarded? Why don't they want anyone to know the truth? Is it just because they think the truth is too shocking for us, or are there more significant reasons?
Hang on. Go back. Hang on. 11. We've demonstrated the physical evidence on both Earth and Mars that exists.
Did I?
Yeah, of a dramatic celestial impact in the past. We have learned that important lesson demonstrated by Comet Levy-Shoemaker 9 in that comets actually do hit planets. We have seen evidence that both gradual and cataclysmic geographical changes occur on Earth, and been made abundantly aware that polar reversals are an absolute scientific fact.
Well, we just currently learned that the poles are converging, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to do this next one.
No, I don't.
No, I mean, as in, I don't know if you want to do this next one. The politics of control. Will you be able to contain yourself?
Probably
are we going to
not.
wrap it up there for the night,
I think
mate?
we're going to wrap it up, mate.
I think so.
I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that was good enough. I don't know how long we've been going for, but it's enough.
Well, surely there can't be much because he's summarizing.
Yeah, he's summarizing.
So surely the next episode, it will literally just be the last of it, and then a chat about how we feel.
Mm. Look, I might read the politics of control.
Yeah.
Because given the world that we exist in, we might not need to read that. right?
Oh,
I might
yeah.
be able to summarise,
Yeah.
right?
That
So I
might be
might,
a good idea.
yeah. Well, we got to change tact.
Well,
We can't take 22
let's just scroll
episodes
down
to.
past politics of control for a second. How much more have we got? We're not doing any tonight.
Of hobbits, dinosaurs, and alphabets. So yeah, it's only just that little thing there. So I
Yep.
reckon we'll probably just skip over that.
No, but how much more of the book have we got?
259 pages, but I think it ends at 240 something.
Right.
Mm.
See, I really thought there was less than that. I should have looked. I
Mm.
felt like he was wrapping up.
No. There's still forgotten codes.
But
forgotten
wait.
codes.
But wait, there's more.
Forgotten his.
Do you want steak knives? We'll throw in a free set of steak knives of that too.
Yeah. So yeah, we're not done yet.
Yeah, no worries. Plenty more to go.
Oh,
people.
hang on a minute. Here we go.
Here
The
we go.
elongated orbit.
There it is.
There it is.
Makes-
Yeah. So no, we're not done yet. So we'll just wrap it up. Wrap it up there, and I think.
Grab
Listen,
your trail
man,
mix.
I think that
and
was
a bottle
cool.
of water because we're going on
Yeah,
a
we're
fucking
going-
journey.
We're going again.
Here we go again, guys.
Well, listen, that was really cool, man. Welcome back to 23. As I say, a little bit rusty, but I think we got through it.
Oh, it was rough.
Yeah. Oh, the hum in the background. It's 4 billion degrees and 2,000% humidity outside the shed at the moment.
So the aircon's
The
on.
aircon's on, so we do apologise for that. I will mention it in the intro.
There's a slight static there.
Well, it was good to get
Suck
into
it
it.
up.
The thing is, man, is that I'm done for today, but I can't wait to sit down again. I want to know where he's going.
We did it. It's always you got to get the first one out of the way, man.
Yeah.
First one in the bag.
Awesome, brother. Well,
Just gonna
thank
chuck
you
on.
very much, sir, yet again.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks to everyone for listening. That's it. Until next time.
In this life and the next.
Cheers. Just want to go again?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Go again.
All right. I know you been here before. No surprises settle the score. I know the darkness deep inside. Reckless rage, poison pride. I know the anger, I know the pain, and I know the fear we do not name. And the one who comes to find me when my time is through, I know you, I know you. Wow. I know you. Better.